Episode 12 coming your way right here on Dan Mathews and the Animals. I'm Dan Mathews. He is the animal. He is Matt Maltepes. As we are here to recap the weekend that was in college football. As Matt, we gave out quite a few plays. Normally we kind of stick to about three a week, but we actually went a couple of extra bonuses for people out there this week, and we will let people know how it all shook out for you. How did the weekend work out for you?
It wasn't so bad. I mean, we had the big under in Clemson, which that was a great move. We had Notre Dame. Notre Dame was another good one, and then we had Sunday football. Sunday football, we had a huge move on the Vikings and that cash. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
All right. Well, good to hear. Well, hopefully, when we get to episode 13 on Thursday, we will have even better moves coming up this weekend. As we talked about, I mean, we did have our customary 3 games or so, and then we added some a little bit later on. As we will get into some of these as the show goes along. Let's start first with a game that you had mentioned and I think was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, I understand, Pitt dealing with some key injuries right now, but Virginia Tech did not necessarily give you any reason to believe that the over would hit in this game. But Brent Pry's team did show up against Pat Narduzzi's team in this one as the Hokies take that one 38-21. It does hit the over in that one. But I mean, I think I'm probably in the same wavelength of you in terms of thinking about this, that there was no reason to believe that the over was in play in this game. And when you factor in the injuries that Pitt had, that was another factor in it. But I mean, as we said in one of the previous episodes, sometimes betting just happens.
Hey, that's the life we live. The pendulum doesn't always swing your way. Sometimes, various variants will hit, it will swing the other way, but it always evens out. So, yeah, this game, I mean, we looked at this game, it looked like a replay for Pittsburgh from the game prior. They let up 41 points to UNC while putting up only 24. The last game against VTech was pretty similar, 38-21 score. Kyron Drones only had 12 completions, but each completion was for 12 yards a pop. They really just ran all over this team for 200 yards on the ground, even though VTech only averaged 3.9 a carry. They just moved the ball over and over and moved the chains for first down after first down, and we saw that in the box score, 25 first downs to 9. I mean, VTech's defense, they did their job. They held the Panthers' offense to 1.9 yards per carry while getting 4 sacks. So, I mean, you can't put any blame on their end. They held Pitt to 14 offensive points the whole game. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Pitt's defense, unfortunately, they couldn't do the same. So VTech just beat this team. It was pretty simple with this one.
Yeah, I mean, and look, that happens sometimes. I mean, you do have a team that plays one of their best games of the season. By far, this was the best game that Tech had played up until this point. This has been a program that has gone through their struggles in the last year and a half with Brent Pry as the head coach. I think a lot of it is just trying to build off what he had coming into the program, but who knows? Maybe for the Hokies, this can be the jumpstart for them to try to get back to being the program that I'm sure I've remembered them as, you have remembered them as, and a lot of people have for some time. So we'll see if he is indeed able to do that. Let's move on to a couple of Friday night games. First, we're going to talk about Louisville and NC State, as Louisville able to get a close win in this one, 13-10 over Dave Doran's team, so much to the point that it precipitated a quarterback change after the loss, as Dave Doran announcing he is going to go away from Brennan Armstrong. So I know NC State is trying to get their season back on track. But for Louisville, I mean, this was a team that a lot of people were on before this season even got started, believing that Jeff Brom could have a pretty special thing this year with the Cardinals.
Yeah, Brom and his brother, they've done a great job with Louisville so far. I mean, 5-0, you can't complain with the results. And I said it before the season, man, they're really underrated team, a little bit of a sleeper team. People aren't talking about. O-line is pretty damn well solid. We look at this game, they doubled NC State in first downs, 18-9. We saw how Brennan Armstrong obviously struggle, and that's why they, precipitated a QB change. I mean, he only had 112 yards passing, 13-25, with 2 interceptions. So, I mean, Louisville's defense played very well. Plummer put up like 286 in yards passing, so he did a pretty good job, even though it was only, 8.2 yards per pass. Running wise, I mean, rushing didn't rush for a lot, 29 attempts, and for only 20 yards. So both teams' rushing offense was non-existent in this one. Um, Big turnovers, a lot of turnovers for each team. But Louisville, they just, despite all this turnovers from each side, they ended up winning this game. And honestly, I think they probably should have covered the game. They only won by 3, so it kind of pushed for all those 3 takers. But I think Louisville's the right side here. They won 13-10. And, hats off to Brom and, the coaching staff here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's also too sometimes in those short week games, I've got to believe that the under seems to be a really strong play a lot of times in those short week games. I mean, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong here. You could look at it either way. You could look at it as defense didn't get enough time to prepare for the offense, and the offense can put up some serious points, and that could be the same for either side's defenses in these games. But I mean, in this one right here, it was an NC State team that was coming off back-to-back Friday night games. So it was a full week for Dave Doran's team, but still in this one, a low-scoring affair. Let's go to the other early week game that we had last week before we get to our huge winner of the weekend, because it was absolutely a huge winner. We'll get to that here in just a second, but that was Oregon State at home for Utah. And I understand Utah has had some quarterback issues in terms of the health of Cam Rising, but it did not help them in that trip up to Oregon as the Beavers able to win this one 21-7. The play that we really liked in this one was the under at 44 and a hook. And that under does hit because both teams combined only 28 points.
So, yeah, I came on our last episode and talked about how Cam Rising doesn't play. This game's probably an under. That's exactly what happened. 21-7 victory for Oregon State. It was a huge defensive game with both defenses making big-time stops time in and time again, whether it was on 4th down or turnover. I mean, both teams racked up 3 sacks. Utah was 13 of 31 in the air, averaging less than 5 yards a pass, while the running attack was non-existent, 1.8 yards a carry. Oregon State's offense wasn't, nothing to be impressed about. It wasn't the best either, but it wasn't unbearable like the Utes. They put up about over 300 yards, 220 passing, 130 on the ground. I mean, they only averaged 3.6 a carry, but it was enough to get them, that win. They grinded this one. That was one of those grind out games where the defenses did the bulk of the carrying. Oregon State just did enough to win it. Had a healthy Cam Rising played, this game would have turned out a whole lot different, but that wasn't the case. And we still don't know when Cam Rising will be back. So, Utah, their offense has not performed great this year. It's cause for concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit of an issue. I mean, we know that the way that Kyle Whittingham wants to play is he wants to be able to run the football, and if that's a little bit of a struggle for your team, then it's going to be a struggle across the board, and that seemed like it definitely was the case Friday night in Corvallis against Oregon State as the Beavers able to win that one 21-7. Let's get to our huge winner of the weekend, and that was Notre Dame at Duke. I know a lot of people were really riding Duke in this one. They liked that number plus 5.5 for Duke in this one. I had mentioned the money line for this one as well at plus 180. Duke led this game for much of the contest, but a final drive touchdown for Sam Hartman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They are able to get the win 21-14 on the road there in Durham. And I'm not a math major, but 21-7, that's 7. 7 is greater than 5.5. That makes for an Irish cover.
Yeah, this game was a good one. I talked about even the devil doesn't want to be on the bad side of an angry Irishman. And Notre Dame ended up winning 21-13 and ended up covering our bet. I mean, we had a pretty sizable bet on Notre Dame this week. When we looked at the box score, first downs were pretty even, 15-16. On 3rd down, Notre Dame was 3 of 15, while Duke was 6 of 15. But the Irish were 3 on 3 on 4th down, which was huge. Both pass defenses were pretty good. I mean, Duke held Hartman to 15 of 31 for 220 yards passing, less than 50% completion rate, and only 7 yards per pass. Notre Dame, they gave up 134 yards in the air to Riley Leonard, which is, amazing. Only 5 yards per pass. So both pass defenses, they played phenomenal. Both teams ran the ball pretty well, running for about 5 yards a carry and over 160 yards. Duke had missed 2 field goals, which hurt them, but Notre Dame also missed a field goal as well. So the big difference was the interception that gave Notre Dame an easy 3 points while taking away a chance for Duke to put up points. Otherwise, the game was pretty close and even. I was blessed enough to have Notre Dame minus 5.5, a little bit bigger and we're able to come away with a win. And Notre Dame, they're trying to still push strong for that playoff spot. So, that loss to Ohio State obviously hurts, but they played them tough, man. I'm still high on this Notre Dame team, and I think that's why I came in this week and I bet them big.
Yeah, and you were rewarded for your belief in Marcus Freeman's team as, again, they win that one 21-14. I did skip over this in my notes. I mean, maybe personally I skipped over this in my notes because I'm an LSU guy. I don't hide it. You follow me on Twitter, you know as much. But in this one, LSU on the road, I mean, you go into the fourth quarter, they've got a 9-point lead. You're thinking to yourself, okay, the real LSU has shown up. They're going to start getting turnovers. They're going to turn this thing around. But credit to Lane Kiffin's team. They score a touchdown to bring it within 2. LSU tries to go 5-minute offense there. They can't be able to sustain the drive, and that allowed for Ole Miss to get into position and score the eventual game-winning touchdown to take this one 55-49. Look, LSU's defense does not look the same way it has in past years, Matt. And that secondary right now continues to be an issue. The amount of missed tackles in this one. I think Brian Kelly said during his Monday press conference, 34 missed tackles that provided for almost 300 yards after contact for Ole Miss in that game. And we saw a ton of breakaway runs by Ole Miss in this one, including the one to set up the final score of the game for Ole Miss to be able to win this one. But, I mean, this is an LSU team now that finds themselves at 2 losses on the season. Unless they can absolutely just run the table and just be convincing, then go to Atlanta and likely beat a very good Georgia team who seemingly plays their best football in November, December, and January. LSU is now on the outside looking in for the college football playoff with that second loss, and a huge part of it is that defense. I mean, I know I just threw a lot at you right there, but this was a game that I don't think a lot of people necessarily saw going the way that it did, going way over the 67 and a hook.
Yeah, so this game was a scoring fest. I mean, it opened 63 and climbed all the way to past 67. So obviously a lot of sharp money was on the over, and obviously that's how it played out. I mean, Ole Miss 155-49. They put up, 90, what is that? 90, 100, over 100 points, 104 points. So, I mean, I told you guys the problem with this LSU team last week, right, on the episode. It's not their offense. Jaden Daniels has this team and this offense playing lights out. The problem is on the other end, the defense. These guys continue to give up way too many points night in and night out. You cannot give up 700 yards and expect to win the game. It's just unfathomable. Ole Miss had 400 yards passing, 300 yards rushing. The Tigers offense matched them as much as they could. They put up 630 yards, 300 rushing. Over 200 rushing, over 400 passing. I mean, first downs were about the same, 33 and 32 apiece. The Rebels were more efficient on third down and went for it on fourth down 3 times, getting it twice. And, Jaden Daniels played a phenomenal game. He did have that fumble early when the Tigers were in scoring position. And it resulted in an Ole Miss touchdown. But that's besides the point. Daniels more than made up for it. He had 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns for 11.5 yards a pass. And he also ran for 100 on top of that for 6.6 a carry. So like I said, the defense failed them today as it's been failing them week in and week out. It's a shame that such a great performance by Daniels wasn't highlighted with a win. I mean, the Rebels passed the ball 40 times, and the LSU Tigers didn't record 1 sack. Meanwhile, Ole Miss had 3. I mean, that's why there's a saying, defense wins championships, and that's why LSU won't. And that's just the bottom line.
No, it 100% is the bottom line. And here are some other numbers, too, as well. I mean, you touched on Daniels' numbers. 414 passing yards, does not throw an interception. I know he has that fumble, but 4 touchdowns, as you mentioned as well. But then here is the damning stats for this LSU defense. They could not get off the field but 7 times against them on third down. Ole Miss converted 9 of 16 chances on third down. And oh, by the way, Lane Kiffin, who is aggressive with his play calling, said, okay, fine. I didn't get off the field on third down. I'm going to try it on fourth down. Stopped them once on fourth down. They converted 2 of 3 fourth down opportunities. So those be the numbers. And LSU fans, of course, the quarterback is going to wear it. I have been vocal on Twitter saying you either don't know what you're watching or you don't care to know what you're watching if you're going to blame Jaden Daniels for that performance, because 49 points, 414 yards through the air, he gave them more than enough to be able to win that game. The defense has to wear this one, and I think they will. And oh, by the way, too, I know that sometimes we'll throw out a look ahead to the Thursday show, but right now LSU is a 6.5-point favorite on the road at Missouri. I don't know how that is the case, but they are. And I see that crew of Brady Cook and Luther Burden for Eli Drinkwitz's team. I just think that could be a bad matchup for this LSU team. They are very much in need of a bounce back. We'll see if they're able to get that, but I got to believe a ton of public money is going to be on Missouri to not only cover that, but probably also, too, if there's a good enough number on that money line, people taking Missouri to win this game outright.
Yeah, people. I mean, the confidence is fading in LSU and it's fading quickly. I mean, all these close games and then you lose to Ole Miss 55-49. You let them score 55 points on you. I mean, the public is probably going to be opposing LSU this week. Now, obviously, I haven't touched the game, but I mean, I hate touching teams where that concern me. This LSU team, their defense concerns me.
You're not wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people that share that same sentiment with Brian Kelly's team right now. So, like I said, they got to turn this thing around pretty quickly. And I think the confidence, especially on the defensive side of the ball and the back end in the secondary, I think is especially a huge concern for that team right now. One more game here before we step aside to get you ready for Thursday's show. And that was Clemson. Look, a team that needed a huge bounce back. I mean, I think LSU fans can maybe hope that they have a similar performance for their team this week. But Clemson going on the road to, I don't even know what they call it anymore. I'll still call it the Carrier Dome, but going up to Cuse and taking on a Syracuse team. You were not the only one that I saw that liked Syracuse +7 in this one. A lot of people really liked that +7 number, but credit to Cade Klubnik and that Clemson offense for being able to put up 31 points, and that defense being very good for Clemson in this one as well, keeping Garrett Schrader pretty much in check for this one. But Clemson able to get out of Western New York with a 31-14 win over the Orange.
Yeah, so we had the under here big, cash, thankfully. Now, we also had Syracuse a little bit smaller, and that did not cash. I mean, the problem with the Syracuse team, I mean, we look at the box score, 21 first downs to 14, they lost that, right? But they're 9 of 17 on third down, which isn't bad. They put up, 280 yards in the Clemson defense, solid. Clemson put up, about 400, although, so they beat them there. Passing-wise, they beat them. Rushing, they beat them by a little bit. But the biggest problem was the turnovers. I mean, they had 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles lost. Anytime you fumble the ball, you're shooting yourselves in the foot. Interception, another one, shooting yourselves in the foot. I mean, they started the game with a fumble that led to a Clemson touchdown, and then they had another one later on that led to another Clemson touchdown. So that's 14 points straight out the gate. You're already down. And obviously, I mean, you take those 14 points away, you're looking at a game where, that's pretty damn close and where Syracuse covered. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things. They missed a field goal as well. So, a couple of different scenarios that could have played out a little bit differently had, the ball bounced their way. Maybe they recover those fumbles, whatever the case is. But, you just got to take it on the chin. We had Syracuse +7. Take that one on the chin. But honestly, I was more than happy because we cashed our big wager on the under here.
Yeah, I mean, that was an under in this one that does go the way of the bettors. So there were a mixed bag of that this week in terms of the action that was the previous weekend. So it was a lot of fun. It was, in some cases, some wins, and in some cases, a chance to be able to make it up in week 6 coming up this week. I mean, we're going to have a ton of games that we can that we can chop up for this weekend. I mean, because we're really getting into conference play. We got the final Big 12 edition of the Red River rivalry there in Dallas between Oklahoma and Texas. Texas, kind of like I was talking about earlier with that Mizzou line there, only a 6-point favorite in this one. I find that to be pretty interesting. I don't know if they think that Brett Venables' team is going to kind of keep this game a little close, but we will see how that plays out. I mean, we've also got A&M at Alabama. We've got a ton of games out there. I mean, Ohio State, Maryland. We will have plenty to talk about in our next episode, sir. So look forward to being able to do it, unless you actually already even have a little bit of early stuff for us.
Nothing this week, unfortunately. But come Thursday, we're gonna be ready. I mean, I'm already drinking my coffee of gods. I'm drinking it, and I'm getting ready. I'm getting all fired up. If you guys want to try out my Brazilian Blast Amazonian coffee of gods, try it out. It really, it gets me going. It gets me firing every day, fired up and ready to go. Puts the lightning in my veins to be able to go out there and win. So, yeah, stay tuned. Coffee of Gods Thursday. We're going to be back with the best of the best, as always, Dan.
For sure.
The animals are coming. We're coming for everything. So watch out. Make sure to subscribe and like our videos on YouTube. And if you like the content, and we're going to be coming back with more winners, man.
There we go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. All of those different things. That is going to put an end to it here on episode 12 of Dan Mathews and the Animals. Once again, I'm Dan Mathews. He is the animal. He is Matt Maltepes. And we will get you ready for week 6 of the college football slate coming up on Thursday.